Party time, ladies! Yes, we have a best of 3 series on our hands, and it's going to be a good one. Down to the bottom left of the map, we have SOK, the Korean human player, and all the way up to the top right, his German counterpart, with all the efficiency in the world, it is Xlord himself, who is once again going to try to aim for 5-0 in the best of 3 series. Good luck with that as usual, but it should be a pretty awesome match. So we have a human versus undead. There's obviously a couple of things to say about that, and the first thing that we should probably mention is that SOK is indeed playing from Korea, which means that he obviously has a much higher ping than Xlord, since all of these games are being played on the European server. So SOK is currently looking at a ping between 300 and 330, which is actually quite a bit. But as I already explained in one of the previous series, one thing that we do know from the Koreans just in general is that these guys are monsters. Absolutely amazing players. And in StarCraft 2, for example, we had Tian and many others just farm tournaments on the North American and the European server, despite the fact that they had a much bigger ping. And just through their timings alone, they oftentimes had a huge leg up over their opponents. If in this game, on the other hand, where of course Micro reigns supreme, SOK is able to take Xlord down, that's a very different question that we're going to see answered within this series. But so far, the Korean player has done an absolutely excellent job, just brutally moving through the bracket and taking one opponent down after another. Now we have the Death Knight in play on the side of Ixi. And yeah, let's see what SOK can actually pull off here. That's obviously one of the cool things also generally from the Korean side. I mean, Korea, the 3 years that I actually spent there for StarCraft 2, you learn quite a bit about just how esports there works in general. I will never forget how even at the airport when I took my first cab into the city in Seoul, where the cab driver, who spoke a little bit of English, asked me what I do. And normally when you are, back then in particular, I mean this is like 6-7 years ago now, back then when you had that question asked to you within Europe or North America, you always had to start explaining to people what esports is, that computer games are indeed played on a competitive level and blah blah blah. And that was yeah, long before you could even talk about being a commentator. In Korea, a random cab driver at the airport, you mentioned that within 1 second he knew exactly what you're talking about. It's such a mainstream thing and really accepted within a society that it is absolutely fantastic. Definitely these days, a lot of parents are trying to put their kids a little bit more into more traditional direction, but of course, especially with the big esports titles, there's a lot of hype around those. And WarCraft 3 wasn't really never the biggest thing in Korea compared to a lot of other games that are being played there, but the advantages of having of living in Korea definitely come true. A lot of it is centered around Seoul, so most of the leagues that you will see have their own studios there. It's much easier to live in team houses together with other players, practice with them, and just get better. And that's something that a lot of those players have taken advantage of throughout all the time. And just the infrastructure is just way better over there. But again, also in the European scene and outside of that, we of course have a lot of very talented players that over time have established themselves all the way up at the top. Usually not really as established and as mainstream as in other countries. China with WarCraft 3 of course still the leading force here. But as we're talking about the game at hand a little bit more, we have the Death Knight nearly on level 2 now, with the harass just continuing, and that could be a potential coil, but he gets one more in. Death Knight on 2 now, a little bit more damage over here. Circle of Ability drops as the human player gets a bit more experience, has nearly level 3 now for himself. Nah, not quite that, level 2.5. And is able to set himself up with an expansion. Xlord, of course, is going to try and hit the early tech, is already halfway done with the Necropolis at this point. So he's trying to see how this is going to work out for him now. In the main base, we have only one arcane tower. Skeletons that are incoming will quickly be taken down thanks to that. And especially over here, this one is living a dangerous life. 18 hit points, yeah, not really a lot. If a Death Knight at any point says hello, you are in trouble. Or a couple of skeletons, that would do the trick too. So he has to take care of that. The first Fiend, on the other hand, is already up, and with the Rod of Necromancy, you can just slaughter a pig and you get 2 skeletons out of that. I don't really know how that works. I mean, I always thought that a pig just delivers 1 corpse or not 2, but either way, it somehow is apparently possible. So Necromancy on the side of the Death Knight seems to be quite advanced. but using that as a bit of a mean shield allows him easily to creep the spot itself with the 2 fiends that he now has. And yeah, we are off to the races. It's gonna be a little bit of a rush there, trying to make sure that he has a timing against the opponent's expansion, because SOK at this point, with the expansion that he's placing here, will have a much superior income. And that, yeah, there's the kill. Skeleton Minion gets the kill in, last hit just before the peasant disappears in the gold mine. So that's a great one for him. Of course, the Footman have in the meantime also done a pretty decent job over here. Yeah, we had SOK playing earlier today in a Human vs. Night Elf game against Please, and his aggression that he showed against the Night Elf's main base was pretty insane. Was pretty fantastic, and it really screwed with his Night Elf opponent, so SOK was able to put a lot of pressure on, force mistakes, and if he can put something similar off here, that would be great for him. But right now, Crypt Fiend is at the bottom of the map and is starting to go straight in for the peasant here, so SOK has to act around that now too. Is maybe even sending a couple of units back. In this case, it's the Archmage that he wants to send back to deal with that pressure. We have level 2 now completed, or tier 2 completed for Xlord, which means that the Lich is going to join the fun as well. Couple of footmen are just saying hello here real quickly, but upon checking on the necropolis or the halls of the dead, they have to quickly move back, because you can imagine how that would go. Especially once the Lich pops out, you know you are in trouble. That Fiend, on the other hand, is still able to get away. Yeah, just waddles slowly and steadily up to the top, where the Death Knight is still trying to farm a little bit more experience to get an earlier level 3. Lich is still in and is trying to get some damage onto that Archmage. Main base, of course. This is where we're soon going to see the tech into Keep. But all the way up at the top, Xlord is on his way down to the Black Citadel. Has a slaughterhouse in the back of the base, so there is no chance of actually cancelling that during the production. And that, as you can already, of course, witness, worked quite well. Archmage is by now on level 3 himself. So is, by the way, the Death Knight. So the level 2 Death Coil is a thing now. In terms of items, we see the Gloves of Haste, which should be passed over to the Lich in just a little bit. And here comes another Archmage move. Yeah, this time he's actually starting to hurt quite a bit. He's trying to steal the experience away, but Xlord is not risking anything here. Quick Nova, and that is chilling the Orgrimmar guy down a little bit, and there's a bit more experience for him too. Continuous attempts from SOK to get the last hit in, but of course this is really where those 300, 320 ping are a massive problem. Yeah. In the main base, then again, this is the second attempt to do some damage with those footmen, and now that the Halls of the Dead is actually not active, that's a bigger problem. And the Archmage is also joining the fun here with a quick Staff of Teleportation. So an attack against the Haunted Gold Mine. Anything you can take down right now would be a win, either the Gold Mine itself or, of course, those Acolytes, but he's forced to TP. Xlord going straight in with a big aggression against the first tier of his opponent, Coil Nova, and with a level 2 Coil, that's not really a big problem for him. So he saves pretty much everything here. As you can tell, he still has all of his Acolytes, he didn't lose the Gold Mine either. His opponent bought himself a bit more time, but had to sacrifice the Town Portal for it. And over here, full-on turtle mode. Yeah, 4 towers in the natural, the main base, a similar picture, with a keep not quite completed yet, but with 48 supply here, at least has the army that he needs. But we have statues in play for Xlord, and now, of course, he's soon going to be on Black Citadel tech, which means that destroyers are becoming a reality. Orb of Corruption for the Lich should then be taken too. And he's getting pretty heavily ahead, so he needs to play around that tech advantage and try and take his opponent down here. And of course, he's very well aware of the advantage that he has just in general from a connection perspective. But SOK, if he can hold on to his expansion, could definitely bring this over the time and then capitalize on the massive income that he has. Ankh of Reincarnation makes also those heroes a little bit more nasty that he currently runs here. Archmage is on level 3.5, but Ixie is actually stealing some of the potential experience of the human player away now. Moving in against the Rock Golem and starting to focus on that. And so far, SOK is none the wiser here. Moves up towards the top and is probably going to creep one of the shops pretty soon. As we have, ooh, the Vampiric Aura, the Scourge Bone Chimes are being grabbed. Yeah, that could actually be quite nice if he starts to transition into Aboms later on in this game. But now the Archmage is still there, goes actually for a Tomb of Retraining, so has that available. and goes probably then into a bit more Blizzard setup. There's one gargoyle for Xlord, okay. Sees everything that's coming right now, and here comes the Town Portal. Immediate attack against the Tomb of Relics, but the Town Portal trade is something they can definitely go for. The repair is in, and there it is. The Blizzard comes through. But those Footmen, they are having a big problem. That's a lot of experience, actually, for Xlord. This is honestly a fantastic fight for Xlord. I mean, yes, time is being lost here just a little bit, but then again, he is currently just wrecking those Footmen one after another. The Lich is nearly on level 3. The Death Knight is on level 4 now. We have the Archmage on, well, not even on level 3. Not even on level 4 just yet. And with enough experience, you can now either force the Potion of Lesser Invulnerability or the Town Portal. That Death Coil is definitely a possibility. Gets another hit in. Could get a second one. Is already wrapping around at the top. And as you can see in the minimap, Xlord is also getting another base now. Archmage is going to confirm that. Yeah, he sees this, but the question is what can he actually do with that? Now he gets blocked. It's going to be tough for him to get away here. And he will have to use at least one of the items. Oh, no! Oh, my God. The Archmage down, the Nova in, and then the Death Knight seals the deal. Yes, that's, of course, where ping matters. So, Death Knight kills Archmage. Now the Mountain King has a second hero after the Keep Tech is the only one that's on the map. He needs to rebuy it. He has the resources, don't get me wrong, with the double income. It's definitely not the biggest of deals to buy him back. But losing the experience here or handing it over to the opponent is, of course, a bigger deal. Keep Tech nearly done too. Has a double workshop now for the flying machines. And with a third hero ready for Xlord, him also rocking the Orb of Corruption, this is looking quite good for him. 53 supply against 39 now. At the bottom right of the map, that's where the base is pretty much safe at this point, but whew, that Gargoyle is just scouting up to an extent where the Stormbolt hits him. And yeah, just rushes away again. Nah, gets actually taken apart. Alright, and still the heroes roaming the map, trying to see if they can maybe get a snipe here at any point. And, well, let's see how this is going to work out for them over at the camp. Trying to bait that out to go for the first Orgalord on level 7. Xlord now has his base up and running, but still, flying machines are scouting that out. Nobody rushing over just yet. Items down here, Legion Doomhorn. Go! Yeah, always a little bit unfortunate when you find your own aura. I mean, on the one hand, you at least... The one saving grace is your opponent doesn't get it. The other thing is, though, it doesn't really do anything for you. You would much rather have an aura that is actually useful to you too. In this case, that didn't quite work out. I mean, it's a little bit of a gold boost that he gets now. But he's already moving over towards the left side to see if he can grab up some bigger items at the next Orgalord spot. The Fiends with 0 upgrades yet. We still have flying machines just scouting out everything here, and it's drop time! Mountain King and Archmage come in. We have one Spirit Tower there too. Over to the left, another item, another Legion Doomhorn. You got to be kidding me, seriously? Alright, so he finds his own aura once again, and there's the portal. And he gets the web through. Oh, I can't watch. This is going to be horrible. The Mountain King is down, and the Archmage with a potion of lesser invulnerability, but he has to TP out there. Oh, this is bad. Staff of Sanctuary. If he could have gotten that through, that would have been great. But nope, Mountain King doesn't have any space to go, goes down. But a multi-prong attack at least, and that's where Xlord immediately starts to jump over towards the expansion. So you gotta give it to SOK. At least he's trying to make those drops happen on 2 sides at once. But this is actually a little bit of a concession to that high ping that we see from the Korean player. Because he has high ping, what we see instead is him focusing more on a macro level than on any kind of micro attack. And right now, it's not really working out for him, as you can tell. But to be honest, it's a pretty nice approach. And Xlord reacted immediately, bought a Town Portal again, and then moved over to the left side. So SOK is now falling heavily behind on the experience side in particular. That Mountain King is still on level 1. That Paladin, that comes in as the third hero, is also still on the first level. Whereas, for example, the Dark Ranger is already on 2, the Lich is on 3. So experience is a problem. Experience is a rare commodity from the perspective of the human player. But it was a pretty nice move. I mean, I like it. In general, the idea behind it was actually pretty sweet. Didn't work out the way that he intended. Was a bit unfortunate. And of course now he's in trouble. But I like the approach at least. When it comes to aura items, we still have the vampiric aura that was previously taken here. As you can tell, one of the Legion Doomhorns was actually passed over to the Dark Ranger, who's now nearly on level 3. But Xlord is just in a great spot when it comes to his hero levels. There's a massive amount of money though that we have for SOK. He didn't cross over into the low upkeep, is still sitting at 47 and has now still more than... well, he pretty much has 1,000 gold on his hands. 59 supply for Xlord though puts him into the low upkeep. Another base is currently being built, or at least attempted, by SOK. And he goes for the next approach. 2 heroes didn't do the trick, let's try 3. So he's trying to move those over. Staff of Sanctuary alone is really going to be worth it. And as you can tell, there's also another Zeppelin approach. He makes the same play again. He makes the exact same play once more. And again, it was a good play. I was actually pretty impressed by how quickly Xlord reacted to it, because if he doesn't pick up on it immediately, then he's just toast. And in we go. There's already the attack. This time Xlord, can you actually head back? He has the town portal, but he needs to take this down too. There's 3 fronts now that Xlord has to deal with. The expansion attempt, the attack in the main base, and the attack at the natural. Really nicely done by SOK. I like the approach of the Korean player a lot here. And he is starting to get value in the main base. At the expansion, well, there's at least 1 meat wagon, but it seems like Xlord actually misclicked that a little bit. And the meat wagon doesn't attack, but more so follows. The repair is on, and he might just be able to save it. Now he also reschedules that meat wagon for another attack. But guys, as it happens, oh, it survives. The main base, that's a different story though. First of all, we have 2 ziggurats down. There's a bit of experience now for the Mountain King and also the Paladin. Ghouls are falling, towers have fallen too, and that Blizzard is just rampaging through the main base of the Undead player. Now we have also the Temple of the Damned in play, but he's just losing a lot here, like really a lot. And now he can just start staffing his units back. There's the first Staff of Sanctuary, the second Staff of Sanctuary is going to come through, and here's the immediate Staff of Teleportation. Nicely done by SOK. He takes down the resources in the main base. SOK's still on 1,700 gold right now. And an expansion attempt is once again started up towards the right side of the base. So yeah, you gotta give it to him. He's really making the best out of the situation here, playing on the European server from Korea. By now the Archmage is level 4, and we see more and more Zeppelins being built, and in addition to that, siege engines. Yeah. And with all the resources that he has, that's a good one. And Xlord, of course, needs to deal with this somehow. I feel like especially every single Night Elf player that currently watches Xlord is going to watch this game with glee and follow what's happening here, because if Xlord is known for one thing, then it is pissing off Night Elf players with endless gargoyle harass and stuff like that, at least in the old days. So now all of a sudden he's the one who has to face the music here and the continuous harass of his opponent, and he kind of needs to deal with this somehow. 60 supply on the German Undead player side. Once again scouting the expansion attempt, but can he deal with it? Because as you might have already guessed, we have another Zeppelin coming in. What he honestly needs is, I think, a Gargoyle or 2, and maybe go for just a few units on the side to try and intercept those Zeppelins. That would probably be a really nice play for him. The problem is, if he plays with any Gargoyles around, there's still those flying machines, and SOK has done a really good job earlier, where he made sure that the flying machines took down any kind of anti-air unit that was just countering, or could potentially have countered that. But the expansion attempt is shut down time and time again. So Xlord is not allowing his opponent to set another base up, because he knows that would be his downfall in the long run. But can he deal with that harass? Because now he's switching it up. Siege engines all of a sudden hitting the main base, not the expansion anymore. Over here, another base is being built. The Destroyer found out what's happening, but SOK is just simply going for the expansion. There's already the Staff of Teleportation happening, trying to force the Archmage to retreat. And he can simply continue with the drop, as up towards the top right, another Haunted Goldmine falls, as those siege engines are just absolutely destroying this. And Xlord, I mean, we're talking about him, he's at 55 supply. He's supply blocked, actually. He has no gold anymore, and he doesn't have lumber. Xlord is actually getting starved here by his opponent. And the only saving grace for the Undead player is that so far he has been able to shut down the attempts of the human to expand again. SOK is eventually also going to run out of resources here. He's investing a lot into all of these drops, and on the experience side at least, Xlord is obviously quite ahead. But SOK is down to 1,600 gold at the natural, 1,000 gold in at the expansion, whereas Xlord has 7,200 gold at the top left. But of course, the problem is the gold in the gold mine doesn't help you if you can't mine it. And Xlord actually GG's out of the game and pulls the plug here as he realizes that he won't be able to deal with those continuous drops of his opponent. So SOK outplaying Xlord on the macro level. And this grants him the first victory in this best of 3 series here in the quarterfinal of the Ryzing Cup. GG and well played by the Korean player. And let's head straight into game number 2. Game number 2, ladies and gentlemen. Oh yeah, we're heading into the next game, and right now we have the 1-0 lead for SOK. The human player has the advantage over his undead opponent as we're heading into Amazonia, map number 2. Top right, we have SOK starting up in blue once again, and down to the bottom left, it's Xlord. Xlord tapping out after SOK had him pretty much in a stranglehold on the first map. Did extremely well here with those drops at the left and right. The simultaneous drops were just a little bit too much for Xlord to handle, and eventually he got choked out on the resource front. Couldn't really build anything anymore, and didn't even have the resources to get his economy up again. And of course, on the one hand, you can complain a little bit about SOK just going in with, let's call it a bit of a lame strategy for just a moment. But hey, if you have 320 ping playing on the European server, you gotta do what you gotta do. So he played that nicely. He focused on the macro aspect, which is definitely his trump card when playing with such a big ping. One of the worst things that he could probably do is engage into any kind of micro battles with his opponent, as his Archmage on level 3 fell because he used the town portal just a little bit too late, or attempted that. That was obvious. So now we're heading into the second map, and with the 1-0 lead in the best of 3 series, let's have a little bit of a look if he can actually take down Xlord with a 2-0 victory and make it to the semi-final, because again, it's quarterfinal time. Death Knight, shocking. Shocking development. Death Knight as a first hero. Yeah, and look at him. Yeah, he was always the best at hide and seek. Yeah, that little that little acolyte, a sneaky one. But okay. First of all, we have an opening with the Archmage again, and if you're Xlord, of course, you're now looking at this and you're like, well, last map, yeah, not really going as intended, but let's focus on the next game and try to win 2 in a row. Because obviously, having an opponent play with a bit of a disadvantage, a bit, with a high ping, allows you to maybe put the pressure onto him a little bit quicker. There's already the claws of attack +6. Both are currently creeping. Death Knight is once again ready with a few additional skeleton warriors to take down the Forest Troll Berserker here. And he's down Manual of Health, Mantle of Intelligence. The Lich is gonna say hi. I honestly would be really pissed if I'm a Death Knight, because every single time I cast any game with the Death Knight, it always feels like that the DK finds item after item after item that he needs to pass over to the Lich then later on. And just imagine when you're a Lich, you come in second, you are worth less at that point because you are several levels down, and the first thing that happens is you just get presents. Life as a Lich must be fucking amazing. You come in, you get an Orb of Corruption, you get a couple of Mantle of Intelligence, there's Gloves of Speed, Gloves of Haste. Like, you get all that free shit that other people had to work for all the time. It's honestly a little bit crazy. Not crazy, we have actually a lot of pressure already against the Archmage, but, well, he is a happy owner of a Cloak of Shadows. So, he quickly just hides, and therefore the aggression of the Death Knight is already shut down right there. But yeah, if you're a Lich, every day is your birthday. You just get free shit. Come out and it's like, yeah, we have a spot right here for you. Okay, Archmage gets a little bit more more damage put on him by those skeletons here. And in the main base, oh, first of all, main base, yep. Militia again, okay. That Acolyte that we saw earlier, he's a diligent one. Already goes in. And Xlord is actually with a few ghouls now moving into this, so of course that means that he is starting to play that micro game. And that's exactly what Xlord needs to do, so it's actually a pretty smart move from him. He's just looking at this saying, okay, why am I playing a macro game against an opponent that has a disadvantage in micro plays against me? Stop playing macro, go for the micro front. go straight in and try and see what we can do with that. Death Knight on level 2 right now. If we can take a few more of those peasants down, that would be a big win. There's another one dead. Level 3 for the Archmage now. Yeah, 2 of those foot managers diligently following the Death Knight the entire time, trying to push him back. But that at least cost the human player a couple of peasants here. In the main base, Xlord is of course doing what he needs to be done. Go straight into the Halls of the Dead here, so tier 2 tech is underway. And he is going to very likely play this with his tech advantage this time. Because SOK has been doing one thing throughout the tournament so far. He has tried to be aggressive, he has tried to buy himself a little bit more time and focus on the macro aspect of the game. Or on a really good timing. Because he knows that when it comes to a straight up micro battle, he is going to have a rough time simply because of that delay. And there we see it already. Xlord with the Dust of Appearance trying to pressure that Archmage. This time I'm pretty sure we're gonna see... Oh my god! 4 hit points! Holy shit! This is exactly the problem. Look at it. He used the potion of invulnerability, but the problem is that even though he used it and he expected the coil, he still used it after the coil went through. So now the Archmage has no hit points. A fart in the wind would kill him. But at the same time, he also used his item. Bad situation for SOK here. But it just highlights the problem for the Korean player. And this is what he has to deal with. Death Knight jumps towards the top. Tries to make a bit of a play here and attacks the expansion again. And he's actually doing some serious damage. And that Archmage has no hit points. Like none. He can't go in there. If there's another death coil, then he's just dead in the waters, and Xlord is trying to take as many of these units down as he now possibly can. And if he is able to kill a couple more peasants, that would already be a big victory in the early stages of the game here for him. And the Archmage is staying far away from this one. He's not going to touch that fight with a 10-foot pole. Can't. Especially since the Lich is now out too. So it's not only that we're talking about the Death Knight, we are talking about a Lich that comes in and can drop a Nova on you at any point. Another peasant is down, he's still fighting around with it. Obviously has a couple of ghouls also in the mix. He barely saves one of them. And Xlord does exactly what he needs to do. Try and exploit the opponent's weakness by focusing on micro battles. It's exactly what he needs to be doing, and he's doing it right now. And obviously he knows that that Archmage is extremely low. But the expansion goes through. That's something that he couldn't technically avoid. I mean, it was bound to happen. But now that Knight is... Oh! He sees it! He sees the water elemental, the summon. He drops the... Oh, God. The Dust of Appearance. And he gets the quick Nova through. And the Archmage has no chance. Xlord with a level 3 Death Knight. Level 1.5 Lich. We have him on 29 supply. He's teching. He's attacking. He's doing what needs to be done here. Archmage is back. He just bought it. And now we are just absolutely crushing through that series. I mean, damn. What a game. And I love this. Seriously, the dynamic between the two of them is fantastic. Game 1, SOK successfully forces Xlord into a macro game where he has a bit of an advantage, where he feels that he has an edge. His disadvantage is not as dominant there. And then game number 2, Xlord just looks at this and says, like, why the hell am I playing his game? I need to force my style onto him and exploit the disadvantage that he has. And that's exactly what he's doing on the map now. He takes one peasant down after another and is still applying pressure with Fiends. He's looking against an opponent. I mean, it's still an advantage in terms of just simple supply for SOK, but it's also a lot of resource supply that he has. I mean, his economy supply is incredibly high. He has a couple of footmen to rely upon, but the more footmen he has to build now, the better, of course, for Xlord too, because it means that his opponent is spending a lot of resources at tier 1 units that in the long run are not going to do anything for him. And the more peasants can be taken down here, it fulfills 2 purposes. First of all, your opponent has a tougher time to actually mine with 5 peasants from the gold mine, and then second of all, he has to replenish those peasants that you kill too. Xlord is at 35 supply now, and he's taking into tier 3. And he's continuously playing around the Staff of Teleportation that the Death Knight has. Brings a few more items in. Has now the Rod of Necromancy in play. Case another water elemental down. That one's gone. In the main base, by the way, look at this. We are still looking at a Town Hall. He hasn't even started a tech into Keep yet. And in the main base of Xlord, where we at, we're nearly on tier 3. He's currently building his first statues. And unless there's a surround or something crazy happening, Xlord will have destroyers on the map. And have you ever tried to fight with footman against destroyers? I can promise you one thing. It's not going to be a happy ending for you. So now we are finally attack into a keep, but of course SOK is well aware that when it comes to tech alone, he is behind, so he's just towering up. Builds another set of towers in the main base, does the same thing at the expansion. And, yep. There we go. In he goes. Oh yeah, Lich needs to be careful and moves back immediately. But there's the first Nova, the Fiends are still rocking around. Down here, tech into Destroyer form has now started. Xlord is still poking at the edges of his opponent, has the Orb of Corruption in the inventory. And that alone is, of course, a fantastic tool against the Footman. Even putting the pressure onto the Archmage at this point. And what SOK doing is trying to take those statues down before there's any Destroyers. Could maybe move into the main base and try to just, like, force Xlord to defend, maybe do anything that buys him time. Because time is what he needs. But time is what he doesn't have. Once the Destroyer form is through, that is pretty much lights out. And the Fiends are already starting to home in on those towers that are being built. Because the only thing that SOK can do is now turtle up like hell. There's very little else that is possible for him. And just hit after hit is connecting with those footmen. Another one is about to go down. That Archmage is also getting, a lot closer to death again. It was just a few hit points earlier with that potion of invulnerability, but now he's just buying items, trying to stay alive. Somehow he's down to 38 supply, Xlord at 48. There's the Destroyers coming in, and it is time for the Orb to actually bury through there. Attack after attack, and yes, he has even energy on a few of those. One tower down, gets the next one attacked. Archmage comes in from the side. Water Elemental is in, so the Dispel is going to hit in just a few seconds. And there's the GG, as SOK says. Alright, this is over. Let's go into game number 3. The final map in the best of 3 series. Coming up next between Xlord and SOK. Game number 3. The series is tied. Xlord against SOK, ladies and gentlemen. And down to the bottom of the map of Northern Isles, we have Xlord. Successful in game number 2, after he got taken out by simultaneous drops of the human player on the first map. So now SOK has to think, okay, how am I going to play it this time? And it is actually a pretty cool setup. Now again, obviously all of this is happening with the knowledge that SOK is playing with a handicap. He has a ping of 300 to 330 on the European server, playing from Korea here. But the human player has therefore started to focus a lot more on the macro elements of his gameplay, playing with expansions, trying to execute drop plays against opponents, and it was successful against Xlord on the first map. And then Xlord started to focus a bit more on game styles that would give him an advantage, trying to force SOK into micro battles where the ping is much more of an issue. So there's a lot of mind gaming between the two players right now, trying to force the other one to play their style, the style that they need to. And especially from SOK's parts is of course always the question, can he compensate for those disadvantages that he has because of the ping and overcome that obstacle? And so far he's done really well in the tournament. I mean, he ended up in the quarterfinal in the first place, and Xlord is switching things up. It is Dreadlord time, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, here we go. Trying to throw a little bit of a curveball in game number 3 now, whereas SOK opens up with a traditional Archmage setup here. It's gonna be a fun one. I like that. So Xlord is looking at this. He actually took a minute or two before the third map started. Has probably thought this out a little bit and said, okay, how am I going to approach this? My opponent has a high ping, I know that already. I need to change things up a little bit. Can I make it into the semi-finals, or is it going to be a victory for the human? And it seems like we're going to have an expansion attempt by him. He's already starting to kill the sheep over here, and is making his way over towards the natural. Whereas then again, we're seeing our human player topside in blue, starting to get a few camps on his own. It's all about the scouting at this point. The footman is obviously going to find out what's happening here. Barely misses the Dreadlord though. Doesn't see the ghouls either, but is of course moving towards the creep spot immediately. And then he will definitely know what's coming. And that's a bit problematic. So yeah, has seen the Dreadlord, knows what's going on, immediately moves back a little bit, but therefore SOK knows there could be an expansion attempt, there could just be a play around Carrion Swarm here, which in this case is not happening just yet, but I think a 2-move retraining will eventually end up in the hands of Xlord, depending on how the game goes. There's the sleep on the Footman, which means that we're going to have a surround while he locks another unit in. Surround is in, and that Footman can kiss his life goodbye. Now, of course, he pays for life with a bit of information. We know at least now that Sleep has been skilled on level 1. Then again, did anybody really doubt that? Of course, you can still add the Carrion Swarm as the second ability, or just use a 2-move retraining later on, and against hit point low units like Footman and such, you will have a great time with that. But I don't think that SOK for just a second really believed that there would be anything else coming but an expansion attempt from Xlord. So now with the Sacrificial Skull, we see immediately Blightwood down on the map, and the first Ziggurat is being built too. There's level 2 for the Dreadlord, and all the way up to the top, an expansion also for SOK. The stage is set, ladies and gentlemen, and Carrion Swarm has been chosen for Xlord as the second ability, so he's going to spec into this a bit more heavily now as he starts to grind to level 3. Oh, Pendant of Energy, nice! And you can, of course, make multiple plays now. You can also start harassing your opponent's peasant line pretty efficiently if you have a Staff of Teleportation, for example. And that might be something that he's going to try and do here, especially if he's able to grab himself level 3 quickly enough. Already moving up to the top, and I'm pretty sure that amongst other things at the Goblin Merchant, it's going to be a Staff of Teleportation that he potentially locks in for himself. So, up, in we go, and there we have it. Staff of Teleportation, and it's going to be Carrion Swarm time. There's more ghouls also headed all across the map right now, so he's actually sneaking them through. We have SOK with, first of all, a little bit of scouting going on, thanks to the sentry ward that he placed here. Down at the bottom of the map, one Footman trying to be a hero, taking this one down, but then again, there's a lot of ghouls there trying to make sure that that base is actually never being built. Town Hall makes it through, but there's another kill against the peasant, and make that 3 or 4. Dreadlord is nearly on level 3 right now, and he's just trying to eliminate every single peasant that he possibly can. And also taking down that scout tower, so that's already a huge deal. We don't have an arcane tower for SOK in position. The ghoul might die. Oh, yes, it is. The sleep just comes a bit too late, but at least he's not able to hunt any additional ghouls down. But so far so good. Level 3 and a bit for the Archmage. We have the Dreadlord on level 3 nearly. Not quite. Obviously the distinction matters, since the level 2 Carrion Swarm could be an absolute disaster for the human player now. So that little bit of missing experience on the side of Xlord is a blessing for SOK. But down at the bottom of the map, the expansion has been built now by the Undead player too, so both of them are relying on second income. Xlord therefore had to delay his tech, of course, and is now actually moving back here with the Staff of Teleportation, but sends a couple of ghouls over to the expansion again to try and see if he can maybe set up a harass. It's going to be a very, very different game from map 1 and map 2. No one is taking just yet. Lumber Mill is in, but this is going to be a very, very interesting game to say the least. Especially since, of course, SOK has to adapt now completely. And those ghouls in the peasant line, those are not a lot of fun for him. Loses another peasant already, and every single peasant that goes down is going to give 25 experience points over to the Undead player, and that Dreadlord is going to be very happy about that. But there's also more and more ghouls dying, and that's another problem. But the Dreadlord is creeping again, and now also has another lot of Necromancy in the inventory, Gloves of Haste for him. The tech into tier 2 has started for Xlord, Graveyard is in play, and all the way up to the top, you guessed it already, the Town Hall is also getting upgraded into Keep. So both of the players are making their approach into the next level. Frog on the map, and the Dreadlord with Wand of Illusion now. Okay, so with level 3 and 450 mana, that's a lot of Carrion Swarms that we are seeing here. So, yep, he is going to try and take him down as quickly as he can. And repeated Carrion Swarms against the human player can be absolutely amazing. That's doing a shit ton of damage. And if you can sneak in a little bit more often to drop a few more, that would be great. Even trying to take the Footman down here is obviously worth it. But the Archmage comes in with another Water Elemental. And there's only so much that you can do as a Dreadlord, because you are taking a bit of a beating from all of those range attacks when both of the Water Elementals and the Archmage are starting to zone in on you. Necropolis is in play, second Crypt is in, Woodman Tower, and he's just starting to creep and creep and creep and creep. Thanks to him also having sleep, there's of course a bit of a problem for the Archmage. You can't just simply walk out on the map when there are also ghouls around, because the surround is still going to be your demise one way or another. So Xlord has a little bit more freedom just trying to creep here, but SOK of course knows that he can't just simply sit in his main base the entire time. He has to move out too, and does that with a few units now. He's really able to set a creep jack against his opponent though, and that gives the Dreadlord, amongst, besides experience, in this case now also a health stone. Bit of a shop creep from his opponent on the other hand, and if that's scouted out, then maybe we're going to see that creep jack by Xlord instead. He's at 43 supply right now. Both of them are pretty much on identical supply numbers. Level 4 on the Archmage has also a Pendant of Energy now in the inventory, and from the Gnoll Overseer, what I'm going to see, he gets Boots of Khaldor's. Boots! And there we go. Where's the sleep when you need it? Well, doesn't need it just yet, but is this going to set it up? No. Might get a little bit more damage in against the Water Elemental. Yes. And moves in with a potential setup. Here we go, guys. Does he have enough units over? Sleep is in. Surround is being set. And is he going to force him to retreat with the town portal? Seems like it. Yes. Oh, no. He actually burrows his way through. Was able to take one down here. But the second sleep is in. Yeah, and this time he will have to use the town portal. And he does it too late. Xlord exploiting the ping problems of his opponent once more. Gets the Carrion Swarm through just a second before SOK is trying to use the town portal here. Level 4 Archmage down and a huge chunk of experience into the hands of the Dreadlord, who has now also the Vampiric Aura. That was fantastic for him. And honestly, at this point, SOK has only himself to blame, because he needed to see that one coming. Of course, you have to play with the ping. It's extremely difficult, and it's a huge, huge disadvantage for him. But if you're going up against an opponent who has exploited that delay already multiple times by going for your hero, and you know that he has enough mana for another Carrion Swarm, you have to expect him to drop that Carrion Swarm before you hit the town portal, and you just have to adapt and use it a bit earlier than you usually would. But the ping is a bit too much for him, so he loses that, and in we go. We have already a little bit of an attack here, as Xlord is starting to get his thing, and apparently... SOK is disconnected, so okay. That could also explain that, but yep, no more moves from him, so that's unfortunate. And yeah, that's going to be a big problem, and I think the admin is actually not catching up on that. So apparently SOK has 36,000 ping, as I've just heard now too. And there is a leaf. Not sure we're going to handle that one now, but yep, that was an unfortunate ending to that map attempt here. Game on, ladies! Game 3 for the second time. Okay, so we actually head into this third game for the second time now between SOK and Xlord. We already played this, and actually we played it pretty deep, but then SOK disconnected. And I'm actually very surprised that Xlord did not take the free win, but instead he watched the replay. Both of the players went for an expansion in the last game. We have Xlord here on Northern Isles on the bottom left of the map, and SOK up to the top right. Xlord watched the replay after the disconnect on SOK's side and said, okay, you know what, it was still pretty even. I have no problem going into a rematch, so they hosted the game again. If you're currently watching this series on YouTube, no matter how this third map ends now, I will add the failed game attempt at the end of the match, so you can also have a look here and decide for yourself if one of the players had a significant advantage, or if you're just interested to see how that game went, because it was actually really interesting. Xlord started with a Dreadlord first and went for a quick expansion, and after that for continuous harass against the expansion attempt of SOK. This time, of course, different strategies. We have the Dreadlord completely forgone for now, and instead again a Death Knight opening. But it was an interesting one, and SOK also apologized for the disconnect and immediately said, hey, listen, if I disconnect again, then just take the win, it's totally fine. But at this point, huge shout out to Xlord. That was definitely a game where nobody would have argued with him in the slightest if he would have taken the free win instead. Neither the admins nor anybody else, so extreme fair play from the German Undead here. Just saying, okay, no problem, let's go regame this one. This is not how I want to reach the semifinals, and let's replay the third map. So in we go. As already mentioned in the previous game, this is of course a scenario now in which Xlord is starting to focus more on micro battles. After game number 1, he definitely realized that it's a huge problem for him playing against his opponent on just a macro level. The double drops that we saw from SOK were a huge issue and eventually cost him game number 1. And he already adjusted in the second game quite nicely by simply attacking his opponent continuously and trying to focus more on micro battles, since he of course knows that SOK, playing from Korea, plays with a pretty big ping, between 300 and 330 here, and has therefore a disadvantage heading into these micro battles. So Xlord is trying to exploit that, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. The big question here is, can SOK overcome that handicap that he has playing from Korea on the European server? And it's going to be an interesting approach between the two. I actually love this little dynamic that we have here. If this was played on even footing, I mean, we all know how this would very likely look, but is it possible for the Korean to still make it into the semi-final, maybe even the grand final here at the Ryzing Star Tournament, considering that he has to play with that disadvantage? The tech into Xlord's Necropolis, or Halls of the Dead now, is quite quick, so he's trying to play around that again. Of course, with the Footman Scout, by now we also have SOK in the know that Xlord did not start with the Dreadlord again, is not heading into that early expansion, but he himself has also delayed things a little bit, so both of the players have slightly changed their strategy heading into this rematch now, and yeah, it's a pretty cool one. I like this so far. This is honestly, this is one of the things that I love. Sportsmanship, absolutely awesome here. I wouldn't have been mad with Xlord in the slightest if he would have taken the death win, but I absolutely I was actually very surprised when I heard that he checks the replay to see if someone was super ahead and to then decide if he wants to take the death win or not. And that alone was already surprising to me, but then he agreed to the rematch. That was pretty spectacular. So big shout out again to Xlord for the fair sportsmanship that we're seeing from him now. Stealing away his opponent's Augur Mauler is also pretty sweet and sexy. The Death Knight on level 2 now with the Talisman of Evasion. And as you can tell, SOK is trying to creep his own expansion now and is already looking at this and like, wait a second, isn't there's a blue guy usually, no? So he doesn't get the experience for that, and he doesn't get the item either. And the Talisman of Evasion is obviously going to make the harass for Xlord a little bit easier now too, since we have a couple of misses coming through here continuously. And the Death Knight will be in a spot where he can stand over here a little bit longer to try and get that coil through that he needs. And he actually lands it! Yep, gets the coil in, and for SOK, this is not really the best start at this point. His expansion is going to go through. Xlord is going to try and play through his tech advantage again, and already looking at the nearly completed Halls of the Dead. Lich is going to join after. Only question is he going to tech into the Black Citadel first, or will he throw the Lich into the mix before he does that? And for SOK, it's really, of course, important to just safeguard the expansion right now. Try and cut off Xlord. Already just flanking here, just like anchoring the expansion play a little bit, trying to make sure that the Death Knight doesn't have an angle where he can move in for another coil or maybe even more skeletons. There's a Lich now being trained in the Altar of Darkness, and the Slaughterhouse also immediately put down. And it's being scouted. And this is actually a very forward position for the Slaughterhouse too. We've seen in the past a lot of those Slaughterhouses being immediately targeted by the opponent. Right now, there's not enough units there to really put that under pressure, and with this many Fiends in the mix, it's also unlikely that SOK is actually going to make a move for it, especially since through the Augur Magi taken away, he doesn't have level 3 yet. In normal circumstances, he would most likely already have level 2 Water Elementals, but without them, it's pretty much impossible for him to be that aggressive. And Xlord himself is, of course, in a pretty decent spot when it comes to experience. Looking at level 2.5 right now. So we'll actually see what he can pull off with that. In the main base, SOK, I mean, he is training, of course. He's building an expansion, he's investing resources into that second town hall, and therefore he has to delay his own tech. So he will try to get that through as quickly as he can, but he also has to make sure that he's safe enough at the expansion to deal with harass. Wand of Mana stealing from Xlord as he snipes another creep and is closing in on level 3. He has the Lich now too, the tech into Black Citadel, and he is going to try and use that aggression against his opponent. Whereas SOK is now attempting to at least get Water Elementals on level 2. Starting to creep the Arachnotides here. Nearly killed myself trying to pronounce that. I also don't really know, like, are scorpions really in the spider family? I don't really know if that's a thing, but those are scorpions. That's a spider over here. That web spinner is a spider. That's a scorpion. But I guess they are in the spider family? Like, honestly, I don't really know. Could be the case. But, yeah. Anyways, let's focus on the important things here. Spider socks for the Lich. He is floating, I guess, in style. Lichs float, right? They don't really have feet or anything hiding underneath all of those things. I know, we're asking the hard-hitting questions here today. But also, Xlord now preparing for another attack. And bam! One of those scout towers is down immediately. And he's trying to make sure that that farm isn't built either. So as long as he can harass with those fiends, it's actually going to be pretty great for him. I've seen that play before, and Xlord has seen it too. The problem is that despite the fact that he's been scouting for it, he didn't actually see it. So now we're going to have all of those footmen rushing into the main base again of the Undead player. And you guessed it already, in the inventory of the Archmage's Staff of Teleportation. I like those plays by SOK. He's trying to be very aggressive. There's a lot of footmen, way more than you would usually see here. And Xlord has anticipated shit like that. And he actually started to build those ziggurats everywhere and blocks now the entrance path even off with one of his acolytes. So it's extremely difficult for SOK to get a lot of damage done here. And this is pretty cool. The Halls of the Dead is nearly completed, so the Black Citadel tech is going to be there any second. And here comes the Archmage. So the Acolytes already have to move back. We have actually defend now on those footmen too. The Lich is needed in order to get another Nova through. But I like what's being done there by SOK, but I also like that Xlord is definitely ready for it. Well, ready in the sense that he saw it coming. He knew this is going to happen again. SOK is going to make the same play. He's going to try and harass the main base. He's going to try and take that gold mine down. And he's going to try and buy time for himself to set up his defense and capitalize on the double income that he has with the expansion. But right now, he is going to have to portal out. And this time, please, a little bit faster than the last time. Here we go. Before another coil on level 2 can hit the Archmage straight up in the face and take him down again. So he is able to get out, but Xlord is on level 3 with the Death Knight, has the Lich now with the Orb of Corruption, and he is obviously ready to tech into Destroyers now, if he wants to. And up to the expansion, what are we going to see here? Towers, towers, and more towers. Yes, SOK is playing tower defense here as he techs into Keep. Scout Tower, and off we go. Lich nearly on level 2 now. The Death Knight comes in, looking into the main base. There's the Destroyer tech. Based over here is still absolutely fine. And another Scout Skeleton is sending a cross map into the main base, or at least an attempt to send it into the main base. Shut down by SOK, but still finds the hero here. A little bit more creep action happening from Xlord, and that gives us now also Staff of Teleportation for the Lich. The Death Knight with the Sobi mask. Mana, mana, mana. Mana, mana. Dee, 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 dee. Mana everywhere. And, well, this one is heavily defended. Yeah, I mean, this is Fort Knox right now. But if you can't get into the natural, then you might as well have another look into the main base, right? And a lot of those scout towers aren't ready yet. Talking about being ready, that Destroyer tech is nearly here. A bit of a scout down there cost the footman his life, as he is sacrificing himself for a bit more information, committing Sudoku here. Trying to convince those Ogres to play a little bit of a number puzzle with him, and as you could already tell, they were not really excited about it. They didn't drop out of school for nothing. Where's that coil to save the Lich? There it is, and it's Nova time. One scout tower down, or well, one guard tower down. The second one could also be attacked now. Those footmen are not going to do a whole lot against the Destroyers, and the Orb of Corruption is of course helping. A quick Nova to slow them down even more. That's easy hits and easy kills, but can he make it into the main base? SOK is turtling like a madman. He's pretty low in lumber, by the way. Every single time we see an attack against those towers in the back, he needs to pull. Oh, the potion of invulnerability! Dude, why do you have to cut it so close every time? The Mountain King comes in with a kill against the Fiend, gets a second one, nice! Homes it in, but that Archmage using the potion of lesser invulnerability just barely before he goes down. I mean, he was at how many hit points? 2, 3, something like that? Yeah, SOK is a little rocket scientist apparently, absolutely calculated. And now the attack is in. But as I said, lumber is low. He gets a little bit over here still, but he's running out of it. And now that we're seeing more and more of those peasants being eliminated, that's a problem. He needs to start to, harvest on the left side at the natural, and that's exactly what he does. The heroes on the side of SOK are just going hunting. They're trying to catch some of the reinforcements that are coming the Undead player's way. But that at least is coming through. Over here with the Archmage, he can now still try and get a bit more action in, and does that with the Blizzard, but the problem is that this attack up here is starting to yield dividends for Xlord, and Xlord is now using his own Staff of Teleportation to harass him. Yeah, Stormbolt is, I mean, honestly, that Stormbolt is not really going to do a whole lot for you, but he's starting to chase down that Mountain King a little bit. Crypt Fiend even sees him here, has used Burrow earlier to get away from this. He has one coil ready so far, but easily going to be able to set another one in. Aggression up to the top, where SOK is defending with the Blizzard. SOK is buying time and buying time and buying time. Upgrading into Castle now. Has 1,700 gold. He has a shit ton of gold, and he's investing a lot of the resources into his defenses. Workshop is being built. Yeah, he's going for similar plays again, you can already tell. There's a lot of damage against the Fiends and against the Lich, so not only are the statues needed to get those hit points back up, but he also needs the Death Knight. Sobi Mask is of course helping out here. There's the attack, and the Archmage has to portal out. And can he kill the Mountain King? And the answer is no. Oh, the coil to the face! The old geezer is getting dropped off the horse, breaks a hip and dies a painful death. Archmage down, Mountain King low, 33 supply for SOK and 49 for Xlord. The resource lead that we're seeing for the human players, of course, a totally different matter, but now he's struggling to keep the Altar of Kings in play. The problem here really is that every single peasant that he sends over to repair that thing is going to immediately be met by a little bit of focused fire, and this is just an absolute slaughter. I mean, this is a graveyard, more or less. Over here, he already rebought the Archmage, realizing that he will never be able to get him back with the altar. It's not like he doesn't have the money. He's still sitting at 2,000, 1,700 gold right now. But the question is, how much time can he buy? Because Xlord is going to go through one structure at a time. But there's also a time aspect to all of this. Since the castle tech is now completed, yep, there's again the Staff of Teleportation being used to get the Archmage back in. The problem is that once these towers are down, that's the real problem. And after we've seen one peasant after another fall to Nova and Focus Fire, that's also a lot of experience in the hands of the Lich, which means that level 3 is definitely in his grasps. And once he has level 3, which he does now, we're talking about a level 2 Nova. As long as those Obsidian statues are there and gonna help you out with that, that would be great. Could even pass the Sobi Mask over for a little bit, to be absolutely honest with you. I mean, the Death Knight is of course trying to get some more death coils in against the heroes, but if he can just Nova the shit out of the peasant line, that in and of itself would already be a win. And once he has those guard towers down, despite the fact that they have now also the 2 armor upgrades here, that would be a big win. And the more destroyers are joining the fun with the 2 attack upgrades that they have, the better for him too. Like, he's moving with 57 army supply, and SOK is looking at 40. He doesn't have the army supply here. And that Mountain King, yep, Mountain King is down. Didn't even use the potion of healing. The delay is still a problem for him. And there's the attack against the Archmage. He is getting the potion of lesser invulnerability through just before he gets eliminated. But now the entire peasant line here is open at the gold mine. He's not going to mine from this anymore. Down at the bottom of the map, that's where the first siege engines come in. Xlord didn't build anything to defend here. And he is actually losing his slaughterhouse. Guys, he's losing the slaughterhouse, which also means that he is not going to be able to get any meat wagons in. So without meat wagons, that's going to be a big problem since he doesn't have siege damage. And Xlord has to move out. He has to move back into his main base. He kills all of the peasants over here, but he needs to keep that slaughterhouse in play and build meat wagons, which is exactly what he's doing right now. With the slow and everything, he can take one of the siege engines apart, but that's the big problem. And that's the play that SOK is going to make the entire time. So a couple of meat wagons would do wonders here and would really help. Setting them up down here in the back would help him to defend. Over at the expansion, there's the double workshop that is just producing more of them. We have the Archmage on level 3.5. Mountain King is still level 1. Yeah, and the Death Knight on level 4.5. Double Staff of Teleportation. One of them is obviously going to be handed over to the Lich, who's now on level 3. But SOK is just trying to buy himself time. The main base, he's trying to save it. Good luck with that. It's not going to be easy. And Xlord is running out of resources a little bit. I mean, it's not really running out of resources, but he needs to be careful that he doesn't lose too much at the bottom of the map. His pockets aren't that deep. He only has one base. SOK, on the other hand, is also starting to struggle a little bit because he's losing that additional source of income over here. And he's losing it quickly. Peasant after peasant is falling. It's an absolute massacre here. The entire peasant line is being taken apart, and not for the first time. He's losing also the peasants he had on lumber. Down here, then again, we see the attack against the slaughterhouse. That one's down. In comes the Staff of Teleportation at least. He's trying to make sure that he gets at least one siege engine destroyed. The repair is in. Has the Lich over here too, and at least one meat wagon is still in play. So he can use that. Has also the unsummon some of the structures here, but it's a weird game that we're looking at right now. 49 supply against 44, and in the meantime, a third hero has joined the fun too. Paladin is in play. Paladin is in here, and he's trying to take the main base apart. The Xlord is losing too much here. He has a huge problem. He also doesn't have a lot of resources. He has 200 gold and 100 lumber. Doesn't have much more than that. There's level 5 for the Death Knight, and he obviously has insane heroes, but that doesn't necessarily win him the battle here. Especially, oh, that on the other hand is focus fire that can't be resisted. Level 4 on the Lich. Mountain King is down, and more siege engines are being produced. That reminds me of Mew. Like, Xlord has definitely played against that shit already before. In the good old days, in any German tournament, in any European tournament. Mew and his siege engines. Yep, we're also looking at the Mountain King being rebuilt now. Looking at income. There's still 2,700 and gold over here. The heroes are definitely going hunting now. Oh! Walk past them. No siege engines this time. But for Xlord, it's a big question. How does he play this now? He builds another slaughterhouse. He's again going for a little bit more hero hunting. But he needs to deal with the siege engines. And for that, he needs more meat wagons. It's a weird one. I mean, Xlord knows that if he somehow can just simply keep himself alive, maybe even expand, he's going to win this game in the long run. His hero levels alone are just going to shit all over SOK's heroes. It's not even going to be close. The problem is, can he hold on to his base? Because you need to deal with those siege engines. That in and of itself is not going to be easy. And for that to happen, he has to also shut down that entire income in the main base of SOK. Honestly, SOK's position is getting better and better by the minute. The problem for SOK is he's also running out of resources. This is insanely cost inefficient for him. He's losing heroes, he's losing peasants, he's losing buildings, and it's draining him. It's draining him dry. It's a game of attrition at this point. And, well, there's one meat wagon. He's building a second one. There's also up at the front still the Black Citadel, but he needs to get a few heroes back into the mix, and he also needs to make sure that the Archmage doesn't kill the meat wagon. If that happens, then it's pretty much just lights out. That's a nice trap here. Does Xlord see it? And the answer is no. He loses the meat wagon. Meat wagon is about to go down. The Paladin and the Archmage are probably suffering the same fate if they stay a little bit longer. It's still all about the Black Citadel here. Here comes the Staff of Teleportation, and that's the coil, that's the kill, and down they go. Archmage down, Paladin down, and if he can't finish it with those siege engines, then it's most likely going to be lights out for SOK. He still has resources, but does it even matter at this point? It doesn't really seem like it. We have one meat wagon right now, and the rest of the army is still up at the top. Rest of our army is still there, and Xlord is now looking at a level 4 Lich, and he is just hammering SOK into the ground now. But Xlord is also running out of resources. He has no lumber, which means he can't repair. He builds ghouls now because he needs the lumber. He can't repair anything here. And we have a meat wagon chasing the siege engines. And SOK doesn't realize it. There's too many points that he has to focus on right now too. He's defending the main base. He needs to be careful with his own heroes. Needs to somehow get them back to business. The Mountain King is in. Here comes the Paladin. We have the Archmage. Yes, the Destroyer sees all of that. But down goes one of the siege engines. And how many more can he build? Well, he's still trying a few. And down at the bottom of the map, here's the ghouls. All the ghouls for lumber. But Xlord is also struggling on gold a little bit. Rebuilding siege engines, meat wagons. As soon as he has a setup that can't be taken down by those continuous siege engines attack that we see from SOK, Xlord is going to be safe. And SOK is down to 39 supply. He has pretty much no resources left either. In the main base, we still have 2,500 gold for Xlord. And his heroes are just leveling up, and leveling up. It's all about the siege engines right now, and he needs to save them. He knows that too. And he comes in again. I mean, look at that Death Knight. 360 mana right now. He can once again just go for it. Staff of Sanctuary is such an important tool now for SOK, and he has, of course, two for them. He has one on the Mountain King, he has another one on the Archmage, exactly the way he needs to play it. But how can he now play against those meat wagons? And, oh my god, the Staff of Sanctuary puts the Mountain King in a bad spot. There's level 5, and in comes the Death Knight. I think this is game. I mean, seriously, how is SOK supposed to win this now? He doesn't have the resources to go into a tech switch to go for anything else, and the continuous siege engine attacks are not going to yield him anything. Not now. Not with multiple meat wagons already on the side of Xlord. Xlord is at this point pretty much proof. And there's the kill against the Archmage. This is game, guys. This has to be game. That Paladin is not going to do anything either. Can't move until he's healed up, which is never going to happen. That's another kill. Level 5 on the Lich. Level 6 on the Death Knight. GG as Xlord wins against SOK. The Korean player defeated as Xlord moves on to the semi-final after taking this series with a 2-1 victory. GG, and well played.